I'm Eric Lopez, alongside Stephen Brown. Kyle Nash is behind the scenes executive producing because he's disgusted for what we just watched over the last 3.5+ hours. But you can check out his thoughts on making the grade. His great article is up right now on blackandgoldbanneret.com. Ding! I'm going to do that in honor of
Ding.
Kyle, who is sacrificing himself to basically say, hey, I'm going to produce this show and let the young guy, Stephen Brown, join in. Bryson Turner now joins us in. And at least we're sounding good. So that's a good sign. Much better than UCF looked at all at any point in any day. Gentlemen, I'll start with you, Stephen. No real surprises on this one. They're Texas Tech dominated from the get-go. I think Texas Tech showed why they're the clear-cut best team in the Big 12. They should win the Big 12 title, and they will represent the Big 12 very well, likely as the only representative in the college football playoff. UCF just manhandled. Your thoughts, Stephen?
Yeah, definitely Texas Tech's defense showed out and really just put on a dominating performance all game. And we kind of expected that coming in. There was a lot of talk coming in about how dominant Texas Tech has been. And they showed that today on the defensive side of the ball with, a couple of UCF's points coming from their defense, as we've seen that UCF's defense stepping up and helping out UCF's offense that has been struggling a lot in the past couple of games.
By the way, you are allowed to bring comments. Keep it clean, everybody. Bryson will read off some of the comments on the chat as well for those that actually loyal that stuck around for some reason for the whole game. We'll read those comments and questions you have. And, of course, follow blackgoldbanneret.com on all the social media platforms. Bryson, your thoughts on this game?
Oh man, it's not like we didn't expect it to be a blowout, but it's unfortunate that it was a blowout on such historic proportions. This was the largest blowout this program has seen since the winless 2015 season. It's never something you want to hear, but with the way that this team played, they deserved it. I think they really deserved it. Unfortunately, with the defense being as beat up as it was, I mean, I think this Texas Tech offense would have been a major test even if the defense was healthy. But you didn't have Braden Marshall. Malachi Lawrence and Nigel Lee Kelly were banged up. Jaden McDonald is gone, so you lost a linebacker in the rotation. They were just too beat up to really be able to contain the offense the way it does. The fact they contained them as much as they did, honestly, I think is interesting in and of itself, though, of course, Texas Tech could have easily have called off the Dogs. That also could have been that as well.
They actually did. They put their backups in. But I got to be honest, I liked a lot of their backups more than our starters.
Well, I mean, they had the money to get them. So,
this is true.
But on the offensive side, I will say this. Taven Jackson, for the not getting much out of it, he actually passed fairly accurately today. Did he make mistakes? Yes. But 82% completion percentage is his highest percentage of the season. Malachi did get some snaps there. I saw him on the broadcast. He just didn't record a tackle. He recorded a tackle on that. He barely had he almost had an interception. There was a batted ball, and then he nearly intercepted it, and then he batted another one, but it ended up still getting caught right there. But with Taven, so he 82% completion percentage is a right there is his highest of the season, actually. And even if you want to say, oh, but the second half didn't matter because he was competing against backups.
The second quarter didn't matter. It was over by then. Yeah, there's a lot of garbage time in this one. A lot of garbage. Let's get to some of the comments. Kyle reading off some of the comments. Defense didn't play back. Yeah, look, I'm going to give the defense a pass. They're up against it. I mean, they're getting no help from the offense. They're banged up. That being said, I think if this team was healthy, they'd still get blown out by Texas Tech because that's what Texas Tech does to everybody. They blow everybody out, especially at home. This was more of a this is more about Texas Tech's resources being way better than UCF's and how far UCF is from there. And whether it's a roster construction, money, call it whatever you want. UCF is way behind Texas Tech. And Texas Tech right now is the program in the Big 12, whether you like it or not. they're not. Here's a spoiler: Texas Tech ain't gonna stop spending all of a sudden. Okay, so this is the new norm, and no, revenue sharing ain't gonna slow them down. So how does UCF make up that ground? To me, is going to be the question. This goes beyond on the field. This was pretty much rock bottom. This is Steven. This is kind of the when you're a student and you're kind of halfway through your classes and you realize, oh, I'm really behind the student in front of me who's straight A in this class, and this line, and I'm barely getting by on a C minus. That's where we're at.
Yeah, it definitely felt that way, especially seeing their backup come in the first half. You know, they pulled the starters there, and they kind of knew that one was over in the first half, which was definitely hard to watch as a student that wants to, you know, see UCF have some success. But it was just pure domination all game with Texas Tech recording nearly 500 yards of total offense. I think they have the stats here: 499 yards of total offense compared to UCF's 230. So just a disappointing game overall.
Yeah, that's an understatement. Somebody commented there, the O-line. Listen, every offensive position is going to be addressed. All right, get the O-line up. Look, listen, the O-line went up against a $7 million defensive front. They were already out a couple guys. They were going to struggle. I mean, a lot of people have struggled against this defensive line. I mean, to be honest with you, as a Miami Dolphin fan, I wish I had that defense. That defensive line is better than the Dolphin defensive line. You know, at least we didn't let Lee Hunter cause havoc. Although I saw where Lee Hunter was talking smack to Nixon, I think at one point in the game, which was kind of interesting to see that there. So here's the unfortunate news, guys. And Steven, you're young. You'll get Bryson's young, so you both will get used to this. I don't believe this gets fixed next year. I think this is a multi-year fix, and that's unfortunate. I know people are not going to want to hear that, but I don't. You know, you're not this program ain't going to spend $7 million as a program. Lee Hunter, Kyle, Lee Hunter had one of UCF's longest plays with a roughing the passer. I was glad he contributed. He no hard feelings. No hard feelings. But do you guys agree with this? This is not a one-year fix. This is a multi-year fix. If it ever gets fixed, there's no guarantees it gets fixed. There's no doesn't guarantee it's automatic going to get fixed. And they need to make some progress next year, certainly on the offensive end. I would not be surprised if there's some changes on the offensive coaching staff, to be honest. That's something they're going to need. Scott Frost has to address. They're going to need a new offensive line coach for obvious reasons. That's been an unfortunate situation. That goes without saying, but I don't think that's the only position that's going to be looked at.
Well,
Yeah,
I think I think a good comparison here, Eric, is I think UCF is in the position of a mid-major college basketball team in March Madness. Let me explain. So remember how we would always, whenever there's a big upset, Cinderella team in March Madness, and there's always those graphics about how it's like a St. Peter's or Loyola spends like X $1 million in their budget, while the power program spends like hundreds of millions or tens of millions, whatever. That is the position that UCF is in right now. We are a mid-major March Madness Cinderella team where we are not going to compete with the big boys every year, but every once in a while, with the resources at least with the resources we have right now, but every once in a while, you can recruit a really good group that'll be able to stand up to those people. The difference, obviously, is we're in the transfer portal era now, but we're going one season at a time this time around. I think that's I think but like how Houston, Cincinnati have been able to bounce back well within a year, UCF might be able to do it. Like if this was, let's put it this way, if we were not in the transfer portal era, I think this year we would be saying this is definitely a multi-year fix. Maybe like a 4-year fix. Like this would be bad if this were not in the transfer portal era. But because we are in the portal era, this is an issue that could honestly be fixed in a shorter amount of time than it otherwise would have. Now, again, resources are a little bit different, but I think maybe Scott Frost might need to take a little bit of a page out of Johnny Dawkins's playbook and maybe try to find those bargain additions that can really help punch above their weight. So other than that, I mean, maybe we'll get more resources. I don't know, but there's a lot that does need to change
Well,
if UCF is going to compete in the Big 12 right now.
I would argue that UCF's already tried to do that in football. Cole Kozlowski is not like a juggernaut. He came from where? Like Colgate? Like some, random school, Steven? It's not as simple in football as and by the way, there's no proof as much as obviously UCF basketball big win over Texas A&M. Steven wrote a recap of that big win against A&M. That's not guaranteed that works either.
Black Gold Banneret homepage.
Ding.
Bing. Shout out Kyle.
That's not a guarantee that it's worked either. They don't make the NCAA tournament, haven't made the NCAA tournament. I'm not saying it's youth basketball's fault. I'm just saying that's not guaranteed. You've got to hit. You've got to hit in the portal, and I still think you've got to hit in recruiting. Jacob Rodriguez, the best player on that Texas Tech defense, was a recruit. He was not a transfer ad necessarily. So you got to develop guys, Steven. So, yes, can UCF do it? Maybe, but they got to hit, and they didn't hit on some of these offensive guys.
Yeah, and we see it throughout the Big 12 with recruiting, with BYU having a freshman quarterback leading there. They dropped last week's game to Texas Tech, which was maybe a little bit surprising with how they lost. But other than that game, he's had a good season and is leading BYU. So I think you're right there, Eric. And it's not just the transfer portal, which is a big help, obviously, these days more than it has been. But recruiting is definitely very important too, because with the landscape of college football, you don't know how long those transfers are going to be with you. So, which can be said the same for recruits as well. But I think just building on both of those blocks will help UCF.
I saw that Fries Flies asked who they replaced Coach Clark with after he passed away. Danny Hope came in to help out with the offensive line there. There was another coach I can't remember the name of at the minute. That he was an assistant to Coach Clark. His name escapes me at the minute, but they did bring somebody in for that. One person I do want to bring up, by the way, is we got to see a bit more of A.G. Adai in this game. Walk on freshman. He was like basically the only other healthy running back available alongside Jaden Nixon. Ended up getting 4 rushing attempts, managed to get a 20-yard out. I mean, look, he's a freshman walk-on, so not a lot of expectations, but I feel like that he really played hard in this one. He also got 2 receptive rate yards, by the way.
Yeah. You're in rough shape where you're depending on walk-ons here. And Kyle just brought it up. Dollars does allow you to bring in players. Here, thank you, Kyle. Dollars allow schools to acquire and keep great players. That's the point. This is reality. And, somebody, I forget what was the national analyst, made a great point about this. You can make the argument that Texas Tech, which 5 years ago you would have said was probably one of the worst jobs in college football, right now is one of the best jobs in college football because of all the resources that has been put into that program. And it's working. It's working. They're going to get to the Big 12 title game. And unless they literally show up in Jerry's world, they're going to win the Big 12 title game. They're going to blow out BYU, Utah, whoever's in there. Heck, put BYU and Utah's rosters combine. And I still would take Texas Tech. That's how much the gap, I think, is between the Big 12 and Texas Tech right now.
It was Tim Brando and Devin Gardner on call with Fox, Eric.
Yeah, what about?
Yeah, you said the national analyst made a point.
No, I wasn't talking about them specific. I mean, maybe they brought that up. I'm not going to lie. I stopped listening to them. I was watching like real good football, like the SEC. There was a good game between Oklahoma and Alabama going on. Here's the good news, everybody. Nobody watched this UCF Texas Tech game outside of Texas Tech fans and maybe some diehard sicko UCF people like us. The rest of the country watched Oklahoma and Alabama, which was a thriller. Oklahoma with a big win over Alabama to enhance their chances of making the playoff. But this is the question, and we're forgetting this point, and it is a valid point about this defense. You've got to retain your best players. Like, you can bring them in. I don't think there's a question UCF can bring talent on this football roster, but can you keep them? And I think that's going to be part of the challenges that you have in this new landscape of college athletics.
Well, you got to remember that some of this talent you're not going to be able to keep anyway because they're graduating. you have Malachi Lawrence and Nigel Lee Kelly specifically are both on their last years of eligibility at this point. So they're not going to be around for that. Who else on defense there? Jaden Williams could be an interesting case. He could get a medical redshirt given he's been out for so long. So maybe you get Jaden Williams back. Jaden McDonald's going to be gone after this year. So there's actually Cole Kozlowski's a senior. Philip Dunham's a senior. So a lot of these like senior talents we've been getting are going to be graduating after this year. So if anything, like if honestly, you talked about hitting in the transfer portal, Eric. I feel like Alex Grinch hit on the transfer portal this year. The problem is that the offense didn't, and look where that got us. So I feel like that can go to show you that even in just a year, you'll be able to flip things over with a really good transfer portal class in just a year or two. And I think UCF has that ability to do that. Obviously, hitting in the transfer portal is a lot easier to say than it is to do.
But there's no guarantees. There's no guarantees. And I'll use a phrase that Kyle likes to use a lot. Noller. They worked on the portal in 2023. Me and Kyle saw that team go undefeated with a lot of transfer portal guys like Keon Coleman, Verse, who's now playing for the Rams, and Fisk and company. And you know what's happened to Mike Norvell? Because he's been all in on the portal, 2-10, and he's on the verge of another under 500 season. So my point is, there's no guarantee that just going portal heavy is going to work and it's going to fix everything.
No, it's not. But again, you got to be a good high school recruiter, and Frost has shown that he can do that.
We'll see. We'll see in this era. We haven't seen it in this era. We haven't seen it yet.
And look at and in this team specifically, Malachi Lawrence is like that. Is sort of that that high school recruit that's been here the whole time. The coalesce around here. By the way, I don't think we've gotten a chance to mention this quite yet, but you want to know who I think could be an MVP candidate for UCF for this team?
Oh boy, what do we got?
It's let me see. Where did I know I have this one somewhere.
Better not be an offensive player.
It's punter Anthony Veneri, because he pinned Texas Tech back so far that UCF got on the board with their first safety since August 2024.
That's true. That was a safety.
I mean, I think so. So I think I'm double checking because I'm pretty sure someone that it was a punt who. So it's who held it.
Oh, shout out to Dunham. He got another interception, by the way.
Yeah, it just got wiped away because of the penalty. Yeah. So but yeah, I would say UCF's MVP in this one is probably Anthony Veneri, because he was able to get him on the board at the very least when
Don't spoil Kyle's material on his article. Come on, making the grade.
Well, it's a safety. You don't see a safety very often. I mean, heck, I'm pretty sure we got a scoregami. Might have gotten a scoregami, because how often you see UCF get 9 points in a game?
Yeah, that's not something to be bragged about.
You're not a sicko, Eric. You got to be a sicko.
In fact, I had a prop bet. A buddy of mine. I said, "What's more likely, UCF offensive touchdowns versus Lee Hunter tackles for losses, or UCF soccer goals scored? Who would have more?" And right now, soccer's winning 2-1 and 1.
Huh.
All right, let's get positive here, Steve. Bryson, you both are going to be at Oklahoma State Saturday. Oklahoma State somehow only lost 14-6 to Kansas State.
That was a weird score.
Yeah, I'm not going to pretend that any of us watched that game. So I'm not going to pretend to know what happened in that game, because let's be honest, nobody cared about that game, and nobody's going to care about our game because that'll be on ESPN Plus. Kyle Nash's family, in fact, this game is so bad that Kyle's Nash family told Kyle, "You're getting out of town. We're getting out of town. We don't need to watch this." And I don't blame them. Give me your early thoughts. Oklahoma State, UCF. Does this team, as banged up as it is, can they at least find a way to get a win against Oklahoma State? We thought this would be close to a lock win. Is it still?
I think it's one of those ones, it's a stoppable force meets a movable object. And so somebody has to win. And I mean, you would think to lean UCF, but I think it's just going to turn into a space game phenomenon. This game is going to be its own season, because if you don't beat OK State, then the concern is there. We all knew Texas Tech was going to give UCF problems today, but then you come into this next game at home against OK State, an expected win, and if you drop that one, then the some questions start getting raised about what this team can actually do if they get a good transfer portal class next year.
I'll say that it depends on the health, because Malachi Lawrence and Nigel Lee Kelly were both able to play in this game, but it's clear that they were banged up given how much of a non-factor they were for a majority of the time. So I think it's going to be a big thing on rehab. Who is going to be available for this one? Is Miles Montgomery going to be back? Because Jaden Nixon, it definitely seems to be more of a change of pace type of back. He can't really get a bulk of the carries like Miles can. So is Miles going to be able to come back and help relieve that? Or at the passing attack, can Taven Jackson be able to complete longer passes? He can complete the short ones, but can he get the long ones? That's also going to depend on how good Oklahoma State's secondary is and how that whole situation is. So I think if things were healthy, because let's not forget, before coming into this, Sincere Edwards is out for the season. Jaden Williams has been gone for a very long time. There are a lot of injured players. Chris Dahmer can't, by the way. I mean, I hope he's okay. Hope he's okay, but he also got injured in this game. So and Cam Fancher and Ja'Cory Brown were both gone for this game too. There's just injuries left and right on this UCF team. I feel like that even if you lose against Oklahoma State, I almost think it will be because of the injuries and how banged up UCF is.
No. Fans are not going to want to hear that. Now, Oklahoma State's like, yeah, cry me a river with the year they've had.
Just because fans don't want to hear that doesn't make it potentially
They're the
true.
worst team in the conference. If you lose to them, you're basically at the bottom of the league. No. Steven, do you agree with that? Because I don't. You have to win this game, whether you're broken or not, because Oklahoma State's been broken all year.
Yeah, I mean, if we look at that comment from Fries Flies saying that he was going to take time away from finals preps and getting ready to see his family for Thanksgiving, I mean, there it is. Yep, we've got the UCF faithful pushing through and to show up to these games. So, I mean, we're going to hear it from Scott on Monday that they just need to be better and they're going to improve on things. But we'll actually see if that's true on Saturday.
I'm telling you, you lose to Oklahoma State, boy, and it will not be pretty. It will not be pretty if you lose to Oklahoma. Oklahoma State's been one of the worst teams all year long. Which no offense, and I still think they can win, even with the defense beat up. I think the defense can win this game. Heck, the defense could probably score on Oklahoma State. I mean, that's bad. But I do want to ask you about the quarterback position. And thank you, Jeff Wiseman. You and I were thinking the same thing. Clearly, Jackson's not healthy. He was limping around. Davi Belfour, they ran some packages where he just ran. He didn't throw, which really annoyed me because we had confidence in him to throw last week with the game on the line, but you didn't have confidence to throw him this week. Whatever. Fancher's been officially out on the reports, on the injury reports. Ja'Cory Brown has not been mentioned in the injury report or any of that. And I think it's a valid question. Is he hurt, or is it one of those things where he's basically a quiet he's going to redshirt and maybe move on after this year, or just redshirt in period? Because it seems to me this is going to be Jackson till the end, as banged up as he is. The Brown situation is very interesting. Bryson, you've been at the pressers. What has Scott Frost said about Brown?
Brown has said that Frost has said that Ja'Cory has been out, like he's been injured. He said he was available in an emergency capacity against the Houston game, and so I think it's very believable that he could have just suffered a setback, and they didn't feel comfortable with him coming in this one. I think that's easily could be the case. That being said, though, I can completely understand why people could say that he's going to redshirt because he's only played in 3 games so far this season. So I understand that as well. But I think, but we all know Scott Frost, and you know that he's not going to throw a guy throw a guy under the bus, and especially I think in the case of Jakari with an injury being factored into the mix. So if you're Jakari and you just get injured and you have enough games played where you're able to redshirt, then I wouldn't judge you if you decided to do that because you have an injury factored in. You don't want to get yourself hurt, like work yourself back quickly, get hurt again, and hurt your long-term prospects. So I think even if that is the case, I don't think we're going to find out until he makes an announcement one way or the other.
All right, so we'll monitor that. And who knows? In this day and age of college football, who knows? All right, let's wrap it up here. Let's be honest, guys. This was an awful game. We'll have coverage of UCF football all week long on blackandgoldbanneret.com. Don't worry, read up right now. Kyle Nash has his article up breaking down the football game. His grades are out. Bryson may have teased and alluded to a grade in particular. We're not going to repeat it because we want you to read and clip. And we'll see what he grades the offense. I'm curious that grade. I haven't read it yet. I'm going to read it as soon as we get off the air. Check out Stephen Brown. Stevie B.
And looks like we have a technical issue there with Eric Lopez. Eric Lopez, Steve, tell the people where they can find you and what you're working on.
Yeah. At least one UCF team showed up in Texas this weekend, and UCF men's basketball was able to get a big out-of-conference win on the road last night and taking down Texas A&M, I believe, in a 12-point victory. You can check that out on the Black and Gold Banneret in the basketball page. You can read about Jordan Burks' big second-half performance to propel that comeback.
Eric, you good? Your more audio. All right, more audio difficulties there with Eric. So you guys can find me at It's Bryson Turner. You can also find me UCF Knights on SI, where I also have my article up about this game as well, where I have the 3 biggest takeaways from this game, what UCF, or at least what UCF can take away from a game like this. You can also follow at UCF Knights on SI. I cover UCF basketball as well, so I have my own article about that Texas A&M win as well. But of course, at It's Bryson Turner, you can follow with every sport that I cover, because of course I was over in Orlando last night with the Banneret covering UCF women's soccer in the NCAA tournament, and they're moving on to the second round. So stay tuned for postseason soccer coverage on blackandgoldbanneret.com, because that is also something I'm going to be working on there.
All right, for everybody here, we say good night. Charge on.